Good morning, everybody. Very, very cold here in Devon. I know it seems like I'm always complaining about the weather, but I'm a gardener and that's what gardeners do. The problem with it being so cold at the moment is that a week ago I was asked to make a table centre for somebody that I need to make today to give to them tomorrow. And the problem is everything is completely frozen, which makes harvesting anything from the garden slightly more tricky. Frozen. Anyway, I need to try and find a way to make it. So what I've actually started doing is taking apart my own table decoration to remake it to the specification of the one that the person would like. They would like reds and golds. Mine was silvers, things like brachyglottis and eucalyptus, cotton lavender, things like that. That was what I had before. So what I'll probably do is use the base. So anyway, let's go somewhere slightly warmer and start trying to make it. Okay, we're indoors. We're a bit warmer, but not much. Okay, so why did I have to take my own centrepiece apart? Mainly because I needed moss. And because the ground was completely frozen, there was just absolutely no way I could go out with a rake and try and rake any moss up. So that's the reason I had to take my own apart. But when the weather thaws out, which I think it's going to be the weekend, I'll just go and get some more moss and then I'll make myself a new table decoration. So it's fine, don't worry, I will get a Christmas decoration for my table. The reason I use moss when I'm doing a table centre indoors is just because of the difference of atmosphere in a house compared to outside. So when I do my wreaths outside, I don't use moss because it's cool and the air can be quite moist, so the foliage will last a really long time. But when you take it into quite a dry and sometimes warm atmosphere, you need something really to retain some moisture just so that the things will stay alive. What I've actually done is all this fur was from my garden and this was on the decoration that I've just taken apart, but you can see where it's been on the moss base. That's absolutely fine, so I'm going to use that again. And the same for the Christmas tree I've got here. That still looks wonderful, so we can use that again. The box looks a bit dry, but I think we'll get away with it. And then this is some new ivy that I happen to have that I hadn't used for some wreaths I made, so we can use that. So that's all the greens, and then I mentioned we were going for sort of reds and golds. So we've got some really nice oak grass here, lovely gold colour. And then my first time growing breezer. I didn't use it very much in bouquets, but I think it'll be quite nice for this. I nearly fell in the river the other day because I found these catkins, which they sort of got more of a pinky red tinge. So I was leaning over the riverbank down at my parents' property to get these catkins. They fell in the river and I sort of had to scoop them out of the river, and then I walked about another 2 metres and there was a tree exactly the same right there, not close to the river. So anyway, I've got plenty of those, they're lovely. One of my neighbours very kindly lets me cut holly from their holly bush every year. The only difficulty this year is they recently acquired a little herd of pygmy goats and there was nowhere near as much holly that I could use on it this year as normal because the goats had eaten the whole bush, all the lower branches. But I've still got enough for this. I've got some lovely amaranthus that I'd kept this amaranthus back to save some seed, so I've given it a good shake to get all the seed out. And that's got a really nice reddy tinge to it. I love this. This is the auroch. Look how gold that is. That's beautiful. poppy seed heads for a touch of gold as well. Just look at that sort of structure there. Isn't that lovely? I'm going to throw in a little bit of white. I've just got some white statice that I dried. I haven't got very many, but I've got a few straw flowers. Oh, don't forget anything. I've got the Nigella, and that's the Albion Black Pod, which has got more of a sort of purpley red tinge to it, really. Oh, and then I've just got these. I've only got one of these, but I've got these little pine cones, and I thought they would look lovely. So I think that's everything we've got. So now I'm going to go ahead and make the table decoration. I'm going to be using a willow base. If you want to see how I make my willow bases, then I'll just put in the description below a link to a video where I make willow bases in different sizes. This is going to be a size, it's very small, as you can see, it's from table centre. But the idea is you want to be able to fit a candle in the middle, and quite often people will use a vase. Okay. I was using the vase to pop up my iPad, that's why you're tipping over now. So yeah, so you just want to make sure it will fit over. And remember, you're going to have moss on it, so you want a little bit of give and take there. The reason I think it's a good idea to use a vase when you're doing a candle is just because if you think you've got a flame near all this foliage, it could be a bit dangerous, really. So by having the candle inside a vase, I think it just makes it a little bit safer. So the whole thing, apart from the candle and the vase, is compostable. So after Christmas, you can just chuck the whole thing onto the compost heap. Because I won't be using any plastics or floral foams or anything like that. Because the moss has, I've just soaked it a little bit, and the reason I've soaked it a little bit is because it's been in my house for a fortnight. But actually, sometimes when I just rake it straight from the garden and the field, I don't soak it at all because it's already got enough moisture in it. But I have soaked that, so this will need to go on a plate, which also you can just use any plate and keep the plate. So it's pretty environmentally friendly as well. Mine had just been on, I just happen to have a round tray that I reuse each year. Right, okay, I'll get set up, rejig the camera, and we'll start putting this table decoration together. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is moss our willow hoop. Okay. So take your handfuls of moss, bearing in mind you don't really need so much moss on the inside of your hoop because that's where the candle's going to be. So you want to be clumping it more to the outside like this. So I just go round you always need a lot more moss than you think for this. Oh, I'll just wring the last bit out because that's a bit too moist. Okay, and then attaching it is really, really straightforward. Okay, new roll of jute twine. That's better. Right, okay. I'll just tie that on really pretty tight, okay, folks? I'll just cut the end off. Okay. Right. Right. And then all you want to do, and you want to do this fairly tight, okay? You just want to keep wrapping around the moss onto the willow base, and as I say, you really do want to pull it tight. Okay, all this needs putting back in place. You see, I haven't cut the twine at any point. We're just, it's one continuous length that is being wrapped around. Just, you want to make sure your moss is pretty even all the way around. You don't want to have one fat bit and one thin bit, which is what nearly happened then. So I just readjusted the moss a little bit. And it's at this point where you can, if you go round and you think there are any areas that are a bit thinner where you can add a bit more, but I think that's okay. So I'm just gonna, I think I'll just go round a few more times. Oh, one more here, I think. Okay. Right. Now, I'm not going to cut this and tie this. I'm going to keep this on for actually making the base. There are a couple of ways you can do this. You can stick all of your foliage into the moss, or what I tend to do is create bunches and push them into the moss and wrap them on, and then at the end I'll go around and I'll stick in the embellishments. So basically I'll cover the ring in the foliage first and then stick in all the little extras at the end into the moss. And the foliage will still take up moisture from the damp moss. The reason I do it that way is I find it easier. I prefer it. I do make wreaths by sticking them in, but I find they take me much longer. So anyway, I'll turn you back around and we'll get started. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is we'll take bunches of the foliage and get them to the size that we want. So we're going to have some of this Christmas tree, a little bit of the box, some of the fir, okay, and a little bit of ivy, I think. In fact, what I'm going to do with the ivy is I'm going to use the whole bit, but in two sections. So I'm going to cut it, and I'm just going to snip that so that you can't see the snip. Okay, so I've just cut that so that you can't see the snip anymore, and I'm going to add that ivy, and I'm going to add the ivy with the flower. Okay, so that's a little bunch of foliage. I'll just get the ends the same. And then remember that the middle is where the vase is going to go. So we'll start on the top. Okay, place it just like that. And then we'll just wrap that around a couple of times. Just make sure the ends of the stems are pushed really well into the moss so that they can take up the moisture. Okay. And then on the table decorations, I tend to do two bunches next to each other, one on the top and then one on the side. So now we'll do the one on the side. Actually, I don't think I mentioned earlier either, I've also got this orange willow, which is lovely, just for another sort of gold texture. So we'll definitely use some of that in a minute. Just cut a few pieces of that off. Yeah, they should look really, really nice in there. In fact, we might put one in the next bunch. So again, we'll take some more Christmas tree. Okay, some more fir, just happen to have some here. Okay, and I think we'll put a bit of holly in here as well. The top of this holly has all been chewed by goats, so what we'll do is we'll just go to where the last nice leaf is and chop that off. I also think we're going to just take that off. Okay, So there's another bunch. This is going to be the bunch on the side. So that's got to go underneath the bunch that we've just put on. Okay, and then we're going to wrap around again, making sure the stems are really in contact with that damp moss. We'll go around a couple of times. Okay, and put the twine out of the way again. And now what we'll do is we'll do the next one on the top. And again, foliages, so Christmas tree, have some fir. Okay, we will put some of this beautiful red willow in there, or orange willow. Okay, and I think we'll also add a little bit of amaranthus into here. Can you see the tips of this isn't very nice? So we'll use this bit lower down the stem. But I'm just going to take off these leaves. They look a bit dry and crisp. Okay, there we are. So we just put that as well in the bunch there. Okay, and then that's going to be placed on the top. Face it out. Okay, don't face it straight along. Face it out away from the centre. And then that will give you a nice spiral. Again, make sure you, again, good contact with that moss. Okay, and then we'll go down and do the bunch that needs to go underneath that. Some box, some Christmas tree, we'll just cut that down. Christmas tree there. Bit of fir, and then we'll have a bit more ivy. Okay, so that's that bunch there, and that's an underneath bunch. Remember that when you're sat at the table, you will see the underneath. They are looked at a lot from above as well, especially if you're into your whole tablescaping. I'm afraid tablescaping, for me, I don't know, it would mean ironing a tablecloth, I think, and I'm not really into that. Right, okay, so I'll stop talking for a bit now, and I'll carry on making this. And when I get to the point where I'm adding all the extra embellishments, I'll have a chat with you again. I just actually decided I was going to add some of the embellishments as I went along. Mainly, I thought I better add the grass because that stem will be so thin that I won't be able to push it into the moss later. But then I just added a catkin too because I got a bit carried away. That would push in really well at the end, so I probably will leave some to do that with. Okay, so when you've nearly finished, it starts to get a little bit tricky because you have to hide your ends. I don't know how clearly you can see. So all I've got here is a clump of ivy, which I always think is really good at hiding your ends. And when we embellish it in a minute, you won't really notice that there's just a big clump of ivy there. So we'll just put that to cover up the ends and tie it on. And then we should be able to tuck it all in and you shouldn't be able to see. Okay, so I'll twine around. Okay. Right. You want to tie your twine off now. So I don't know what I've done with my scissors. I'll have to try and use my snips, which aren't so good at cutting string. Oh, that wasn't too bad. And all I'm going to do is tie my end to one of the loops of string that you can see going around the base here. Right, oh, there they are. Found my scissors, snip that end off. Okay, so this is very basic at the moment. It really needs all those extra embellishments to finish it off. You can see the twine in a lot of places on the inside. We don't want to fill those gaps in too much, so we've got to remember that the jar will be going in there. But anywhere where we can see twine on the outside, we will add some things. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so I did put in, as I said, some of the grasses because I suddenly realised that they wouldn't push into the moss very easily. I put the holly berries in because I wanted the holly leaves as part of the foliage. And I've put some of the amaranthus in, but I can always add more amaranthus. But now you want to be cutting the ends of the things you want to stick in to a really sharp point to make sure that they go in. I've not got a very long stalk on these pine cones, but I really want to make this really, really sharp so that it should push into the moss. And because I've only got one of these, I want to put that somewhere where it will be seen. So I'm going to go through and find a gap of where it's all pretty green foliage. And in fact, there's an area here where I can just see the string. Here, can you see the twine here going all down here? So I think that's the location I'm going to put my pine cones. You can't see because of the ivy leaves in the way. But when I show you the finished bit at the end, you'll be able to see. But I'm going to put my pine cones in there. Okay, I will show you now. If I can. Okay, so there's where I've put the pine cones. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to have a look now and see where I should add things. And for example, there's lots of amaranthus here and here, and then I think we're probably missing a bit of amaranthus over here. So we'll start with that. And it should now just push into the moss. Just like that. Okay, that's lovely. Right, and then I think we could do with some of the beautiful poppies. Okay, and then we'll try again. Ah, there we are. That's better. You want to try and put all of your things facing the same way to give that sort of spiral effect. Oh, this one's got a bend in it, so we just have to cut a little bit shorter. I really love this auroch. I think that's going to really make a difference. So we'll start putting some of that in. And I think with the Nigella, I'm going to let it stand a bit proud because I love the really thin stems on there. I haven't got very many of these lovely straw flowers, so I'm going to have to be very careful with those. Oh. I'm just going to take this time just to check that the vase will still go in the middle, which it will, so that's good. But I can just see the twine through the vase, just a little bit too much there, but I can't put anything bulky there because the vase won't fit in anymore. So we'll just see if we can just get this little bit of boxes in there maybe. Okay. Okay, we'll add a bit of the white now, a bit of the statice. I think he's a bit long. There's a bit around the edge here where I can really see the twine here. And obviously when you're sat on the table you will be able to see that. So we'll, I think we'll put a poppy seed head there. Okay, that's better. Okay. I really like these catkins, so we're going to try and get some more of those in. Okay, so it's starting to look a bit better now, but we'll just finish with a few little extra bits. Particularly this area of ivy definitely needs something doing to it. Okay, so what you can also do, as well as adding things, is cut things out. So there's a couple of ivy leaves that I'm just going to cut out. So we're just looking now for areas that are a bit green, and we've got an area here which could do with something else adding to it. Now, I don't know what you think, but I can't decide whether or not these feathers would look quite nice. So I'm having a little think about that in a moment. Let's put them in and then we can see what we think. I think no. Now this is for a lady who lives on the moor in Devon. She lives on Dartmoor. So I'm thinking I might just add a little bit of bracken. Bracken is really, really fragile, so you do have to be really careful with it. Yeah, I think I might add a little bit more of that. Okay, so let me hold this up so you can see it. Okay, I mean you could use this as a door wreath if you wanted, but obviously that's not what I've been asked to make. So I'll just let you see some of the detail. Okay, and then I'll try and do some photographs in a minute of how it will look on a table.